It was supposed to be just another Tuesday night in Indianapolis. Nobody walking into Gainbridge Fieldhouse that evening expected to witness one of the most electric scoring explosions of the entire WNBA season. But by the time the final buzzer sounded, 3 Indiana Fever players had combined for an almost unbelievable 72 points, and the crowd inside that building knew they had just seen something special. This is the story of the night Caitlin Clark, Sophie Cunningham, and Kelsey Mitchell turned a basketball game into a fireworks show. Let's set the scene. The date was June 16, 2026. The Indiana Fever, sitting at a strong 9-5 record, were riding a 3-game winning streak and looking to make it 4 straight. Standing in their way were the Toronto Tempo, a team with plenty of fight, led by veteran scorers who weren't going to make this easy. This wasn't just a regular season matchup either. This was a Commissioner's Cup game, meaning every single point mattered more than usual, every possession carried extra weight, and the players knew it. Tournament basketball has a different energy. It's faster, it's tighter, and it's a little more desperate. Both teams walked onto that court understanding that this game could shape their path toward a championship opportunity later in the summer. Now, if you've been following the Fever this season, you know their formula. Caitlin Clark, the electric young guard who broke records as a rookie, sets the tempo and finds her teammates with jaw-dropping passes. Kelsey Mitchell, a steady veteran who has been quietly brilliant for years, provides scoring punch that defenses still underestimate. And then there's Sophie Cunningham, the spark plug off the bench who can change a game in the blink of an eye with her 3-point shooting and relentless energy. On most nights, any one of these 3 lighting it up would be the headline. On this particular Tuesday, all 3 of them caught fire at the same time. And when that happens, opposing defenses simply don't have an answer. The opening tip went the way most expected. Both teams traded buckets early, feeling each other out, neither side able to find separation. But then, right as the first quarter clock was ticking down to 0, something happened that set the tone for everything that followed. Sophie Cunningham, who would later torch Toronto from beyond the arc, drilled a buzzer-beating 3-pointer right as the horn sounded. It wasn't just points on the board. It was a statement. It pushed Indiana's lead to 6, and more importantly, it told everyone watching that the Fever bench had teeth. That shot rippled through the arena like an electric current. You could feel the building shift in that moment, fans rising out of their seats, sensing that this game might not stay close for long. As the second quarter rolled on, Indiana kept building. They stretched their advantage out to as many as 11 points with about 8 minutes left before halftime. It looked, for a few possessions, like the Fever might simply run away with this one early. But give credit where it's due. Toronto wasn't ready to fold. Marina Mabrey, who would finish with 18 points and 7 assists for the Tempo, started finding her rhythm. Laura Juskate, who would go on to lead all Toronto scorers with 19 points, began attacking the paint with confidence. Slowly, possession by possession, Toronto chipped away at that lead, refusing to let the game slip out of reach before the half even ended. By the time the 2 teams walked into the locker room at halftime, the score read 53-50 for Indiana. A 3-point cushion. Not exactly the commanding lead you'd expect given how dominant the Fever had looked at certain stretches. If you were sitting courtside watching this unfold, you might have thought, this is going to be a nail-biter all the way to the final horn. Toronto had clawed their way back into contention, and there was a very real sense that anything could happen in the second half. But here's where the story takes its turn. Here's where the legend of this particular night really begins. The third quarter is where everything changed. Indiana came out of that locker room with a different look in their eyes. It was as if someone had flipped a switch. Kelsey Mitchell and Sophie Cunningham, in particular, turned into an absolute nightmare for Toronto's defense. Between the 2 of them, they combined for 21 of Indiana's 32 points in that third quarter alone. Think about that for a second. 2 players accounted for nearly 2/3 of their team's offense in a single quarter, while Toronto's entire roster could only muster 23 points in response. That's not just a good quarter. That's a quarter that breaks a team's spirit. Every time Toronto found a sliver of momentum, Mitchell would answer with a pull-up jumper or a smooth drive to the rim. She finished the night shooting an absurd 9 for 11 from the field, connecting on shot after shot with the kind of efficiency that makes defenders look like they're standing still. And every time Mitchell wasn't scoring, Cunningham was letting it fly from deep. She caught fire from beyond the arc in a way that made Toronto's coaching staff visibly frustrated on the sideline, calling timeouts, shifting defensive assignments, trying anything to slow her down. Nothing worked. By the end of the night, Cunningham had drained 6 3-pointers on just 7 attempts. 6 threes. That's not a hot streak. That's a player who simply could not miss. Meanwhile, in the middle of all this offensive chaos, the game took a difficult turn. With 6 minutes and 46 seconds remaining in the third quarter, Toronto's leading scorer, Brittany Sykes, went down hard. She had been driving toward the basket on a non-contact play when she suddenly collapsed to the floor in obvious pain. The arena fell quiet in that moment, the kind of quiet that happens when a building full of competitive fans suddenly remembers that these are real people out there, not just names on a stat sheet. Sykes covered her face with her jersey as her teammates gathered around her, and after several tense minutes, she was helped off the court and back to the locker room, finishing her night with 11 points. It was a sobering reminder that even in the middle of a thrilling, high-scoring affair, basketball can turn serious in an instant. The game paused, hearts were heavy for a moment, and then, as it always does, the action continued. With Sykes sidelined, Toronto's path back into this game became even steeper, and Indiana sensed it. They smelled blood. The Fever did not let up for a single second. If anything, they pressed harder, attacking every gap in Toronto's now thinner rotation. By the time the third quarter buzzer sounded, Indiana's lead had ballooned into the double digits, and the building was buzzing with anticipation for what the fourth quarter might bring. Now let's talk about Caitlin Clark, because while Mitchell and Cunningham were stealing headlines with their scoring outbursts, Clark was quietly orchestrating one of the best performances of her season in a completely different way. Her shooting wasn't falling the way it usually does. She finished just 5 for 15 from the field, well below her usual efficiency. On paper, that might look like a quiet night for the Fever's franchise player, but here's the twist. Clark finished the game with a season-high 14 assists. 14? That's not a typo. While her own shot wasn't dropping, she turned into a pure facilitator, threading passes through impossible windows, finding Mitchell in rhythm, finding Cunningham in her sweet spots, setting up Aaliyah Boston for easy buckets inside. She still managed to score 21 points despite the rough shooting night, picked up 5 rebounds, grabbed a steal, and even blocked a shot. It was a masterclass in adapting. When her jumper wasn't falling, she simply found another way to dominate the game, and that selflessness is exactly why this Indiana team kept rolling. And we can't forget about Aaliyah Boston either. While the headlines belonged to the trio who combined for 72 points, Boston quietly put together her own double-double, finishing with 18 points and 11 rebounds. She was a force inside, cleaning up missed shots, finishing at the rim, and giving Indiana that extra inside presence that complemented the outside scoring barrage perfectly. A team built like this, with scoring coming from every direction, is incredibly difficult to slow down, let alone stop. As the fourth quarter wore on, Toronto tried to mount one final push, the way good competitors always do, refusing to simply hand over the game. Mabry kept firing from outside, Juskate kept attacking, and players like Maria Condi, who scored 12 points off the bench, and Isabel Harrison, who added 11, tried to chip away at the deficit. Kia Nurse contributed 10 points as well, giving Toronto 4 players in double figures. It wasn't a lack of effort on their part. It was simply that Indiana had reached a level that night that very few teams in this league can match. The deficit never came close to disappearing. Indiana's offense kept humming, the role players kept hitting shots, and the final horn eventually sounded with the scoreboard reading a commanding 113-91 in favor of the Fever. Let that sink in for a moment. 113 points. In regulation, that number wasn't just impressive, it was historic for this franchise. Indiana set a new team record for points scored in a regulation game. They shot 52% from the field as a team, knocked down 13 of 30 attempts from beyond the arc, and were nearly perfect from the free throw line, sinking 28 of 33 attempts. Every single statistical category told the same story. This was a complete offensive performance, the kind of game where a team simply clicks on every single level at the exact same time. And right there at the center of it all stood 3 names. Kelsey Mitchell with 27 points on that ridiculous 9 of 11 shooting. Sophie Cunningham erupting for a season-high 24 points off the bench, fueled by 6 three-pointers. And Caitlin Clark contributing 21 points alongside her season-high 14 assists. Add those numbers together, and you get 72 points combined, scored by just 3 players in a single basketball game. 3 players outscoring an entire opposing team's bench, role players, and most of their starting lineup combined. After the final buzzer, when reporters gathered around Mitchell to ask about the performance, she didn't sound like someone celebrating a blowout. Instead, she spoke about discipline, about the dangers of losing leads they'd worked hard to build, and about how this team has learned the importance of staying sharp from the very start of games rather than waiting until adversity forces them to wake up. It was a veteran's perspective, a reminder that even in a 72-point eruption, the mindset inside that locker room remained focused on the bigger picture. This wasn't just about one electric night. It was about building consistency heading into the most important stretch of the season. Because here's the thing about this win. It wasn't just a number on a stat sheet or a highlight reel moment. It pushed Indiana's winning streak to 4 games in a row, climbing their record to 9 wins and 5 losses. For a team that has dealt with injuries and lineup shuffles throughout the year, finding this kind of rhythm at the right time matters enormously. And in the race for the Commissioner's Cup, every single win like this one carries weight beyond the regular standings. It's a tournament within a season, and nights like this, where 3 players combine for 72 points and the supporting cast steps up around them, are exactly the kind of statement performances that can carry a team deep into June and beyond. Think about what makes this story so compelling. It wasn't one superstar carrying a team on her back while everyone else watched. It was 3 completely different players, each contributing in their own unique way, coming together at the exact same moment to produce something the box score will remember for a long time. Mitchell's surgical efficiency inside the arc. Cunningham's fearless marksmanship from deep, lighting up the scoreboard from the bench. And Clark's willingness to sacrifice her own shot for the betterment of the team, turning a quiet shooting night into a record-setting assist performance. That's the kind of balance that championship teams are built on. And let's not overlook the emotional roller coaster this game put fans through. A buzzer-beating 3 to close the first quarter. A back-and-forth battle that saw the lead shrink to just 3 points at halftime. A stunning, history-making third-quarter explosion that buried Toronto under a wave of points. A scary injury scare that silenced the entire arena for a few tense minutes. And then a complete, decisive finish that left no doubt about which team controlled this game by the time it ended. From start to finish, this was a basketball game that had everything. Drama, dominance, heartbreak, and ultimately, a celebration for Fever fans who got to witness history unfold right in front of them. For Toronto, this loss drops their record to 7 wins and 8 losses, a tough pill to swallow against a red-hot opponent playing at the absolute peak of their powers. But credit to their fight. 4 players reaching double figures against an offense playing like that is no small feat. They simply ran into a buzzsaw on a night when Indiana's stars all decided to peak at the exact same time. As for the Fever, the question now becomes whether they can sustain this level of play. 4 straight wins is no fluke. A team record performance with 72 combined points from 3 players is the kind of outlier night that doesn't happen by accident. It happens because of chemistry, because of trust, because every single player on that roster understands their role and executes it at a high level when the lights are brightest. Caitlin Clark trusts her teammates enough to give up scoring opportunities for assists. Kelsey Mitchell has the experience and poised to stay efficient even when the spotlight is on her. And Sophie Cunningham has proven, night after night, that she can change a game's entire complexion in a matter of minutes when her shot is falling. If you zoom out and look at the bigger picture of this WNBA season, nights like this remind everyone watching exactly why this league has captured so much attention. The talent on display, the depth of skill across rosters, the emotional stakes of every single possession, it all combines to create must-watch basketball. 72 points from 3 players in one game isn't just a fun stat to throw around on social media. It's a snapshot of what happens when preparation, talent, and timing all collide on the same night, in the same building, under the same bright lights. So as Indiana heads into their next matchup, riding this incredible momentum, fans everywhere are left wondering just how far this version of the Fever can go. Can Mitchell keep up this kind of efficiency? Can Cunningham continue raining down threes from the bench? And can Clark keep finding new ways to dominate a game even when her own shot isn't falling? Based on what we just witnessed inside Gainbridge Fieldhouse, anything feels possible for this team right now. One thing is for certain. On that Tuesday night in June, 3 players turned an ordinary regular season night into an unforgettable chapter in this season's story. 72 points, 3 players. One incredible eruption that Indiana Fever fans will be talking about for a long, long time.